Good morning. Today is Friday, the 8th of October. My name is Kathy and I live in the parish of Binstead. And for this morning's thought of today, for the day, I've chosen the Gospel passage. So it is from Mark chapter 16, starting at verse 1. And I'll be reading from the NIV. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome bought spices so that they might go to anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb, and they asked each other, "Who will roll the stone away from the entrance of the tomb?" But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. "Don't be alarmed," he said. "You are looking for Jesus the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." Trembling and bewildered, the woman went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. That first Easter morning brought not joy and the peace of the risen Christ, but rather bewilderment, fear, and flight. Cheryl talked about these three women on Wednesday, of their love, faithfulness, and support in Jesus' final hours, of the care they gave to Jesus, whatever happened. Their sadness and sorrow must have been profound. In our times, I find the Saturday of our Easter weekend, which is sandwiched between the gruesome events we recall on Good Friday and the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus on Easter Sunday. It's a strange day. I don't really know what to do with it. I sort of feel in limbo, and if one's spending the weekend with others, I find it rather incongruous to have fun and to celebrate. I can only begin to imagine how these three women, the other family members and friends, the disciples and followers of Jesus must have felt on that Sabbath. Desolate and despondent. What had happened? How had this come to pass? That Jesus was crucified. What to do now? Who to believe and trust? Where was God? What now of their hopes, faith, and belief in Jesus? The three women buy spices as soon as the Sabbath is over, which is Saturday evening after sunset. They go to the tomb at first light on Sunday, which is the first day of their working week. They were expecting to have difficulty with the massive stone, but hoping, no doubt, that someone stronger would be nearby to help. They were not going in order to witness Jesus' resurrection. That was not in their minds. They didn't think that was even possible. They were going to complete the primary burial. This was a sad task and done to lessen the smell of decomposition, as other bodies in due course would be buried in the same tomb over the coming year or so, prior to Jesus' bones being collected and put into an ossuary, which is called the second burial. They got the shock of their lives. The stone was already rolled away. A young man in white sat where Jesus' body had been and calmly explained to them that Jesus had been raised from the dead and would see them again in Galilee. They were to go with the message to the disciples and to Peter, who was particularly included so that he knew after his catastrophic denials he was not regarded beyond redemption. Quite naturally, they rushed off home, scared out of their wits. They must have passed several people on the way, but they didn't say a word. They were in shock. It's rather an odd ending to the gospel. Why did it end so abruptly? Was it intentional, Or have the last page or pages of Mark's manuscript gone missing? Subsequently, a shorter and longer ending to chapter 16 have been added. In his commentary on Mark, Tom Wright says, laborious attempts have been made in modern scholarship not just to suggest that Mark really did mean to stop there, as it were, to wallow in the dark uncertainty that results. Mark, we're told, is a book of mysteries. People in Mark are always being told to stay silent. Now the women do just that. Instead of a cheap, happy ending, they say, Mark has given us something far more powerful, a strange, brooding puzzle which leaves the reader turning the matter over, wondering what on earth might have happened and what it might all mean. But Tom Wright is not convinced. As Tom says, Mark has told us over and over again that Jesus tried to teach his disciples that he would suffer, be killed, and rise again from the dead. They didn't understand. Presumably they thought he was talking in riddles. He wasn't. He was speaking the truth. He told the disciples after the Transfiguration that they were to tell no one about it until the Son of Man had been raised from the dead. They were puzzled by this at the time, but Mark does not intend his readers to go on forever being puzzled. Tom goes on to say that he feels Mark would have gone on to tell us how the second part came true as well. Perhaps in strange providence of God, the way Mark's book now finishes encourages us all the more to explore not only the faith of the early church, that Jesus had indeed risen from the dead, but of our own faith. There is a blank at the end of the story, and we're invited to fill it in for ourselves. Sometimes we struggle to see it as good news too. This telling of the dawn of the first Easter morning doesn't rush us into Easter joy. Everything is not instantly resolved. Resurrection doesn't happen tidily. It happens in disarray. Like the woman who flee from the empty tomb, might we flee from resurrection? Another commentator suggests, does the new life Jesus promises sometimes feel too unsettling, too unbounded? Is it easier to stay in the tomb of sorrow or fear or unforgiveness, whose contours we at least know? Is it easier to stay there than to emerge blinking into the new life Jesus promises, where old certainties are rewritten and our lives are made strange and new? If Jesus is risen, then the world is other than we imagined it to be. The rolled back stone shows that tombs do not need to stay sealed. To roll back the stone, to step tentatively into the Easter dawn can be frightening. No wonder the women flee. Because to step out of the tomb, to be resurrected, is to live in a way unbounded by death, to find ourselves not under the dominion of fear or hatred or sin, but under the dominion of love. And that really is good news for us all. Have a good day. Thanks for joining me.